We just need to go home.
I won't keep you if you wish to leave.
But I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
Doesn't look like this goes outside.
Two Mormon missionaries, the confident Sister Barnes and the timid Sister Paxton, begin their day reflecting on how they came to embrace their faith and their belief in the church. Sister Paxton appears particularly anxious, as she has yet to baptize a single investigator during her mission. In stark contrast, she is taken aback to learn that Sister Barnes has already converted about 9 individuals. Determined to make progress, they head into the city, engaging passers-by in conversations about their Savior, Jesus Christ. As evening falls, they arrive at the quaint, cottage-like home of a reclusive Englishman named Mr. Reed. While Barnes locks their bikes at the front gate, the two missionaries walk toward the house. At the doorstep, Barnes double-checks her list to confirm they have the correct address before knocking. Paxton, both nervous and eager, quietly rehearses her introductory lines. After a short wait, the door opens, and Mr. Reed greets them warmly. Paxton explains that they are visiting in response to his request to learn more about the Church of Jesus Christ, briefly introducing their faith. Reed acknowledges their purpose and invites them inside. However, the missionaries hesitate, mindful of their guidelines against being alone with a man. Sensing their concern, Reed reassures them, explaining that they are not alone. His wife is in the back of the house, preparing a blueberry pie. As the missionaries step inside, Mr. Reed offers to dry their coats and casually mentions that the walls and ceilings of his home are made of metal, a detail the missionaries acknowledge with polite curiosity. Leaving them in the living room, Reed steps away to call his wife. Moments later, he returns with a soda for his guests and apologetically explains that his wife is feeling too shy to join them. The group begins discussing religion, focusing on how Joseph Smith investigated various denominations before founding the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. To emphasize his interest, Reed shows them a copy of the Book of Mormon that he has been reading. Sensing an opportunity to involve Reed's wife, Sister Barnes quickly redirects the conversation by reminding him about the pie, hoping it will encourage her to join them. However, Reed steers the discussion in another direction, making increasingly uncomfortable comments about the Mormon faith and the nature of belief. At one point, he probes the concept of polygamy, leaving the missionaries visibly uneasy, and even accuses Joseph Smith of misusing the idea to justify relationships with multiple women. The tension in the room escalates as Reed continues to mock the faith and, at one point, makes a cruel remark about Sister Barnes's father's death. A sense of unease and urgency grips the missionaries, thickening the atmosphere with apprehension. Finally, after one more plea from the missionaries, Reed reluctantly agrees to call his wife and steps out of the room. When Reed leaves the room, Barnes notices that the enticing smell of blueberry pie is coming from a candle on the table. It dawns on her that Reed's wife doesn't exist. He had used the candle to fabricate the illusion that she was baking in the other room. Reed soon returns, announcing that his wife is eager to meet them. As the missionaries prepare to leave, Barnes fakes receiving a phone call from the church. Reed, seemingly understanding, offers them privacy and steps away. However, it becomes increasingly clear to the missionaries that Reed has ulterior motives beyond discussing faith. They decide it's best to escape immediately. Barnes realizes that the key to their bike lock is in her coat pocket, but her coat is still with Reed. Despite the challenge of leaving their bikes behind, they decide to flee on foot. To their dismay, they find the front door locked with no way to open it. The only potential exit is a small, inaccessible window, leaving them trapped. Desperately, Barnes tries to force the door open while Paxton attempts to call Elder Kennedy for help, only to discover they have no cell signal. With no other options, the missionaries decide to confront Reed directly and ask for his help. They find him in his study and inform him they just got off the phone, and need to return to the church immediately. Reed appears calm, showing them their coats and resuming his work. As they collect their belongings, Barnes notices that the key to the bike lock is missing. Confused, Paxton eventually finds the key in her own pocket, though neither can explain how it got there. When they ask Reed to unlock the front door, he reveals that it operates on a timer and won't open until the next morning. He suggests they exit through the back door instead. To their shock, he also exposes their lie about the church call, explaining that the metal walls and ceilings block cell signals, making it impossible for them to have received a call. Although he repeatedly assures them that nothing sinister is going on, his actions suggest otherwise. Summoning her courage, Barnes opens a door she hopes leads to an exit, but is met with a disturbing sight that leaves her shaken. Checking another door, the missionaries come to the grim realization that Reed has meticulously set a trap for them. Meanwhile, the weather has turned stormy and uninviting. At the church, Elder Kennedy notices that Sisters Barnes and Paxton have not returned as expected according to their schedule. Concerned, he begins searching for them throughout the city, visiting the locations on their work list, and knocking on the doors of the people they were scheduled to meet. Back at the house, the missionaries grapple with the increasingly unsettling circumstances. Meanwhile, Reed continues to ramble about faith, dismissing all religions as nonsense, except for one he cryptically refers to as the one true religion. He introduces the concept of iterations, drawing analogies from everything from Monopoly and Star Wars to the song Creep by Radiohead, to illustrate how most religions are adaptations or reworkings of one another. Reed elaborates, claiming that all holy books, regardless of the religion they represent, share a fundamental message. However, he argues that this message has been reinterpreted and reshaped over time, diluting its original meaning and obscuring its true essence. To support his point, Reed reveals a small gallery depicting 12 gods, who existed long before Jesus. He uses these depictions to argue that the stories within holy texts are merely mythological iterations that have been passed down and altered through the centuries. Eventually, Reed reveals that there is no other way to leave the house, and offers the missionaries a choice between two doors. One door is for those who continue to believe in their Mormon faith, while the other is for those willing to admit that his claims are true. With an air of finality, Reed declares his ultimate assertion, that all 10,000 verifiable religions are fabricated, artificial constructs with no divine truth, including their church. To underscore his point, he throws their Bible to the ground and walks off. Sister Barnes picks up the discarded Bible and notices a metal-like dagger that might serve as a tool for escape. While Barnes clings to her faith and determination, Sister Paxton, believing it might be their only way out, decides to choose the door labeled disbelief. Barnes, however, refuses to follow, arguing against Reed's points and standing firm in her faith. Ultimately, the two opt to go through the belief door together, only to discover a cruel twist: both doors lead to the same dungeon. The dungeon offers no clear exit and is entirely blocked off, with no way to access the back of the house as Reed had suggested. Searching desperately, Barnes notices a small caged window and tries to reach it. In the process, she dislodges a piece of wood with protruding nails, which could potentially be used as a weapon. As the sound of Reed's approaching footsteps echoes through the space, Barnes quickly descends and hands the dagger to Paxton, instructing her to use it against Reed when she hears the agreed-upon code word. Moments after, the basement door creaks open, marking the start of a deeply unsettling turn of events. A frail, haggard-looking old woman appears, carrying what seems to be a freshly baked pie. She places it on the table without a word. Suddenly, loud music begins to play, leading the missionaries to notice a small hole in the wall. The hole connects to Reed's study, where he is meticulously jotting down notes, clearly executing a premeditated plan based on their interactions since their arrival. From his study, Reed addresses them, introducing the old woman as a living prophet capable of performing miracles. He reiterates his claim that all known religions are demonstrably false, and asserts the need for a witness to verify that a true miracle has occurred. As the old woman begins eating the blueberry pie, Reed casually informs Barnes and Paxton that the pie has been poisoned, which causes the woman to collapse, apparently dead. Reed then explains that she will soon resurrect, and recount what she witnessed on the other side during the brief moment she was deceased. To confirm his claim, he orders the missionaries to check her pulse and breathing. Hesitant and horrified, Barnes and Paxton eventually comply, verifying that the woman is indeed dead. At this moment, the doorbell rings, and Reed steps away to answer it. He quickly resets the door timer and opens the door, only to find the Mormon elder who has been searching for Barnes and Paxton after they failed to report back. The missionaries desperately scream for help, but their cries go unheard. The elder appears reassured by Reed's calm explanation that he hasn't seen them, and departs, leaving the potential rescue attempt fruitless. While Reed is away, Barnes and Paxton frantically brainstorm other ways to escape. During this time, they manage to find a box of matches. Upon re-entering the dungeon, Paxton notices that the position of the dead woman's head has shifted, suggesting she may have moved. Barnes, however, dismisses the observation as unimportant and insists she focus on helping her. Hoping to draw attention to their plight, the two attempt to start a fire to create smoke signals and alert someone nearby. In the midst of their efforts, Paxton suddenly realizes the old woman has vanished. To her horror, the woman reappears directly behind her. Now eerily animated, the woman begins describing her experience in the afterlife, recounting visions of clouds and angels she claims to have seen while she was dead, before cryptically saying that it isn't real. Reed returns to the basement and demands that the missionaries recount the miracle they just witnessed, and describe the afterlife as narrated by the supposed prophet. However, Barnes rejects the prophet's account, pointing out its similarity to common hallucinations reported in near-death experiences. The conversation escalates into an argument, during which Barnes discreetly signals Paxton to attack Reed. Before Paxton can act, Reed pulls out a knife and slashes Barnes's throat, seemingly killing her. He claims this will serve as yet another miracle, asserting that she will revive just like the prophet. When Barnes does not come back to life, Reed cuts into her arm and removes a small piece of metal, triumphantly declaring it as proof that Sister Barnes was never real. He hands the object to Paxton and quickly spins a new narrative, declaring that the entire world is a simulation. He insists that the only way Paxton can escape this false reality and return to the real world is by ending her own life. Paxton, however, examines the object and recognizes it as a contraceptive implant. This realization exposes Reed's deception, and reveals that everything has been part of his meticulously crafted plan. She accuses Reed of scrambling to create new justifications because something in his scheme has gone wrong. Paxton begins piecing together her own theory about how Reed orchestrated the prophet's miracle. She explains that during the distraction caused by the elder's arrival, a second woman must have hidden the prophet's corpse and taken her place to deliver the afterlife description, following Reed's script. However, the imposter deviated from the plan, adding the unplanned comment about how it wasn't real. This unexpected twist forced Reed to improvise, leading to his desperate acts of killing Barnes and trying to convince Paxton of a simulated reality to salvage his failing plan. Reed appears both stunned and begrudgingly impressed by Paxton's deductions. While searching for clues, Paxton discovers an underground chute that was likely used to hide the prophet's corpse. Reed, standing nearby, warns her against venturing down, cryptically stating that doing so will reveal the one true religion. Undeterred, Paxton descends the chute and finds the lifeless body of the original prophet. Before she can investigate further, Reed shuts the cellar door, trapping her below. Determined to escape, Paxton pushes forward, navigating through a series of connected passageways. After passing through multiple doors, she finally encounters a door, secured with the same bike lock she had used earlier that day outside Reed's house. Remembering she still has the key, she unlocks it, only to uncover a chilling sight, a room filled with cages containing numerous women who all bear a striking resemblance to the prophet. Mr. Reed follows Paxton into the underground chamber, and pointedly asks if she has figured out what the one true religion is. Paxton responds that she has, explaining how every moment since their arrival at his door was part of his meticulously orchestrated plan. She recounts how he deliberately left them alone in the living room under the pretense of speaking with his wife, but instead went outside to hide their bikes, ensuring the elder wouldn't locate them. She recalls noticing his wet hair when he returned with their drinks, indicating he had been outside in the storm. Paxton continues, pointing out how he intentionally slipped the bike key into her coat pocket, and likely instructed one of the prophets to lock the final cellar door, all to manipulate their journey. When Reed challenges her, asking why he would go to such lengths, Paxton deduces the truth. His ultimate goal was to guide her to this very moment, regardless of which path she chose. She then underlines Reed's conclusion, that the desire to control others is the root of all religions, a revelation Reed confirms with a sense of satisfaction. As Reed elaborates on his belief that he can control people just as all religions do, Paxton seizes the moment, and stabs him with the dagger before making a desperate attempt to escape. She climbs the ladder, reaching the study room. Though she considers fleeing immediately, she decides to return to the previous basement to check on the seemingly dead Barnes. Before she can act further, the wounded Reed re-emerges and stabs Paxton in the stomach, causing her to collapse. As both of them bleed out, Paxton begins to pray, explaining to an enraged Reed that her prayer is not about seeking tangible results, but about demonstrating kindness and faith. As she prays, Reed drags himself toward her, seemingly intent on delivering a fatal blow by slitting her throat. However, just as he is about to strike, Reed is suddenly struck from behind and collapses, dead. Paxton looks up to discover that Barnes, either still alive or temporarily revived, perhaps in response to Paxton's prayer, has delivered the fatal blow. With her final act, Barnes saves Paxton before succumbing to her injuries, and falling lifeless once more. Determined to survive, Paxton returns to Reed's study and manages to escape through a window. Outside, she finds the world transformed into a snowy landscape. As she stumbles through the cold, a butterfly lands delicately on her hand, a poignant moment, as Paxton had earlier expressed a wish to be reincarnated as a butterfly that would visit the hands of her loved ones. The butterfly lingers for a brief moment before vanishing, leaving Paxton injured, bewildered, and alone in the silent, snow-covered wilderness.